Discover 3 spine-chilling true horror stories that will haunt you on a rainy night alone. The rain pounded relentlessly against the windows of Sarah's cozy suburban home, the wind howled like a banshee, but what truly sent shivers down her spine was the eerie stillness that followed every roar of thunder. Just as she settled into the warm embrace of her couch after a grueling shift at the diner, her phone buzzed insistently. A call from the school, an urgent lockdown due to a reported armed individual lurking in the area. Heart racing, Sarah felt the icy grip of panic wrap around her. Her 2 children, Daniel and Mia, were at a friend's house tonight, but this wasn't just another storm. The flickering lights cast chilling shadows as she peered out the window into the rain-soaked night, a cinematic frame of nightmare taking shape in her mind. There, at the edge of her neighbor's yard, stood a figure cloaked in darkness with an unsettling familiarity. A memory tugged at her. Stories whispered amongst neighbors about the strange man who had seemed so harmless, yet had vanished like a ghost, just another unsolved case lingering in the town's shadow. Fear gnawed at her as she instinctively dialed her kids. But just then, the unmistakable sound of the front door creaking open startled her. In rushed Daniel and Mia, faces pale, eyes wide, breeze from the storm trailing in behind them. They were trembling, recounting horror tales of watching a man linger around the school galleries, his smile twisted and unnatural. What once felt like home now reeked of paranoia. Step by step, the chilling atmosphere thickened, leading her to check the locks, ensuring every door was bolted and secure. The shadows felt as though they crawled closer. A clink sounded from the hallway, footsteps scraping against the hardwood floor, whispers seemed to echo through the walls. It was impossible to shake the sensation that she was being watched. The sanctuary she once thought safe now turned into a cage of dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night crept on, the storm howled louder, like a malignant spirit taunting them. With every clap of thunder, Sarah could feel the weight of dread crushing her chest, leaving her breathless. Her children huddled close, relaying their close encounter with that unsettling stranger. He was watching us. He followed us. They cried, fear spilling over. A predator in their very neighborhood, lurking behind the facade of normalcy. And then came the unmistakable ring of the doorbell, shattering the silence that had settled like fog in the room. The voice on the other side sent chills down her spine, sweet and deceptive like honey dripped with venom. "It's okay, I'm here to help," it called into the night. Her heart raced, pulse pounding in her ears as she wrestled with the nature of trust. Who could she really count on? As the shadows writhed just beyond the door, tightening their grip on the night, would opening that door bring salvation or doom? The doorbell rang again, its sound cutting through the tension like a knife. Sarah stood frozen, the flickering lights casting jagged shadows over her face. "Mom." Daniel's voice carried a wisp of hope, a shaky lifeline in the dark. "Who is it?" "I don't know," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Every instinct screamed at her to stay silent, to not draw attention to themselves. The voice from outside was too calm, too sweet. "Open the door, Mom." Mia pleaded, clinging to her brother. "We can't just leave him out there." Is it the man?" Daniel's eyes darted nervously. "Shoo." Sarah pulled them closer, glancing out the window to see if she could glimpse the figure. But all that greeted her was the torrential rain and a curtain of mist. Memories of whispered warnings flooded her mind, the town's folklore of dark figures emerging during storms of a vengeful spirit and sinister blues. The voice called again, more insistent now. "I can help you. You don't have to be afraid." The gentleness nagged at her, seducing her with a false sense of security. The storm outside erupted in a deafening roar as a distant clap of thunder shook the house, causing her to jerk back. Mom, please. Mia begged again, her small hand gripping the couch as if it were a lifebuoy. Before Sarah could respond, she noticed the glint of something in the corner of her eye, just outside the window. It was him, the figure standing ominously, watching. A dark silhouette against the rain, the shadows danced like malevolent spirits. Panic clenched her gut. "I'll just take a look," she stammered, her instincts battling her growing dread. She stepped toward the door, every heartbeat echoing like thunder in her ears. But what if she didn't like what she saw? "Wait, Mom!" Daniel shouted, lunging to seize her arm. "What if he is dangerous? I have to know who he is." She hissed back, and although she didn't truly believe her own words, curiosity and terror were at war inside her mind. She felt a compulsion to open the door, to unveil the secrets wrapped in this wicked storm. Slowly, she turned the doorknob, every click reverberating like a countdown. With a quick swing, she swung the door open. The rain immediately drenched her, shrouding the figure standing in the threshold in a veil of shadows, a man, broad-shouldered and soaked to the bone. His expression was hidden, just a smirk cutting through the darkness. "I told you I was here to help," he said, voice dripping with insincerity. "What do you want?" Sarah demanded, determination clashing with an overwhelming urge to run. Her children shrank further into her, small and scared, reflecting the horror of the moment, but the man leaned forward, his dark eyes glimmering with something unholy. "I want to protect you, from what is coming." The air was thick with impending dread. Her mind raced as pressure built up in her chest, compressing her ability to think clearly. "What is coming?" she whispered, fear crawling up her throat, and just then, a scream echoed from the depths of the house. Not just any scream, but a chilling shriek that froze everyone in their tracks. It didn't come from her, nor from her children. It came from the back room. As panic surged, her thoughts raced. Could there be someone else inside the house? The shadows began to close in, whispering her name. It pulsated through the walls, thick and suffocating, and before she could react, the figure stepped closer, glancing behind her as if sensing the terror that lurked just beyond sight. "You have to let me in," he demanded. "Otherwise, it gets worse." Sarah's heart thudded as she met the intensity of his gaze. The door stood open, an entryway to safety and a keyhole to evil. The thunder crashed, and outside, the darkness swallowed the world. With decisions weighing heavy in her mind, she stood at the crossroads of salvation and doom. What would she choose as terror unfolded around her? But what if the real nightmare was already inside? A shiver ran down Sarah's spine as she felt the man's presence envelop her like a suffocating fog. It was an invitation veiled in malice, an inescapable pull that made her fingers tremble on the edge of the doorframe. Mom, don't." Daniel's voice broke through her haze, panic threading through his words. She could feel his small hand clutching her arm, nails digging into her skin. And all of a sudden, the scream echoed again from the back room. This time, it sounded desperate, haunted, a cry for help, mingled with dread. It twisted in her gut, forcing her to reconsider. "Stay back!" she shouted, narrowing her eyes at the man. In that heartbeat, the veil of his charm began to fray, revealing something dark beneath. The lightning briefly illuminated his face, and what she saw made her skin crawl. His lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes swirling with shadows. "What do you want?" "I told you," he cooed, stepping further into the light, "I'm here to help. All you have to do is trust me." Each word dripped like venom, and Sarah felt her resolve waver like a candle in the wind. Thunder crashed again, the noise resonating deep within her bones. The screams intensified from the depths of the house, wielding her fear like a weapon. Every fiber in her being screamed to close the door and bolt it shut. But curiosity wrestled with instinct, creating a tempest of uncertainty. "If you're here to help, then why is someone screaming?" His smile faltered for an instant, and the shadows in his eyes glinted sharply, like knives. "Because they are lost, just like you will be if you don't let me in." A knot of dread tightened in her stomach, as if the walls themselves were closing in, urging her to decide. What was it he knew? What was really hiding inside her home? "Mom, please don't listen to him," Daniel shouted, desperation spilling over. The terror in his voice broke her trance, anchoring her back to reality, back to her children, and then, as if summoned by her efforts to resist, the source of the screams broke free. A figure stumbled into the hallway. A girl, maybe older than Mia but wrapped in shadows, her hair matted and eyes wide with terror. "Help me. He's coming," she cried, collapsing onto the cold floor, trembling. The man's gaze shifted to her, cold and hungry. "Oh, that's not your concern anymore," he sneered, dismissing the girl with a flick of his wrist. Sarah's heart raced, a tidal wave of instinct kicking in. "Get inside," she shouted to the girl, her voice sharp with urgency. Without waiting for a response, she flung the door wide, drawing the family closer together. There was no choice now, they had to act. The girls scrambled toward them, but the man lunged forward, his figure darkening the threshold. "You're making a mistake." His voice boomed, rattling windows like thunder. The storm surged outside, rain lashing against the door. The shrieks mixed with the sound of battering winds, wrapping around Sarah's mind like a barbed wire. Her pulse quickened, she could feel the walls tightening, the room closing in around her. "Shut the door!" Mia screamed, her small voice threaded with terror. The man's expression twisted, morphing into something feral, the calm facade cracked like glass. "Stay back!" Sarah yelled, her breath quickening as she realized the gravity of her situation. But the darkness was heavy, suffocating. The girl was almost in reach. "Let them in, Sarah." The man growled, his voice a low snarl that reverberated in her ears. "Or it all ends here." Dread pooled in her stomach, overpowering and thick. Time hung like frozen rain. What if she let him pass? What if she closed the door? Then, a new terror rumbled beneath the surface, the sound of footsteps in heavy water, rising up from the deep. Sarah needed to decide, but what if choosing meant losing everything? The storm raged on, but the real tempest was just beginning. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum in her chest, each beat a reminder of impending doom. The girl on the floor was nearly at the threshold, her wide eyes pleading for salvation, while the man loomed like a dark specter, casting a shadow over their only chances of survival. "Mom," Daniel whimpered, his grip tightening, his small body trembling with fear. She opened her mouth to respond but found no words. The storm outside seemed to echo the chaos inside her mind. All she could hear was the thundering of her heartbeat and the relentless screams in the distance. With every passing second, the air thickened, heavy with dread. The figure at her doorstep shifted, closing the distance as if he were gliding over the floor. "You think you can protect them?" he taunted, his voice oozing mockery. "What if they're already part of it?" The girl gasped, and Sarah shot a frantic look at her, desperate for answers. "What do you mean? Who is he?" "He's not here to help. He wants to take you all," the girl cried, her voice breaking. "You have to shut him out. Please." The frightening image flashed through Sarah's mind. What would happen if she opened that door? What kind of monster would escape? The shadows in the man's eyes grinned wider, and he stepped forward menacingly, the corners of his mouth twitching, as if savoring her struggle. "Make your choice, Sarah," he said, his tone a seductive whisper, laced with menace. "You can end this madness. Just let me in." Behind him, the wind howled, and Sarah felt the very walls shivering. Every instinct screamed at her to throw the door closed, to race upstairs and hide with her kids, to flee that oppressive presence. "Don't you sense it?" he continued, laughing softly. "You're already surrounded by darkness. It's inside you. Join me. Let it out." A rush of cold air spilled into the hallway, and Sarah felt an icy tendril curl around her ankle. Something was trying to pull her down, down into the depths of despair. She could almost see shadows, whispering her name, inviting her into their fold. "Get back!" she shouted, yanking the girl toward the door. We'll fight. We want to let him take us. But the girl shook her head as if Sarah was losing herself to the shadows, too. You don't understand. She sobbed. If he gets past the door, he won't stop until he has all of you. He feasts on fear. Mom. Daniel called again, fear gripping his small voice tight. The dark figure seemed to smile wider, relishing in the chaos. Time to choose, Sarah. Fear or trust, life or death. You want your family to live. Then embrace the darkness. Get inside. Sarah shouted, desperate now, glancing outside into the swirling storm, feeling the weight of the world pressing against her. The girl crawled inside, just as the man lunged. Sarah slammed the door with every ounce of strength and locked it shut. But the house moaned like an old machine struggling against something greater. The weight of dread hung like a shroud, and suddenly the pounding at the door was violent. Bang! Bang! A thunderous assault rattled the frame. Mom! Mia squeaked, her fear tangling with Sarah's growing anxiety. And then, the whispers returned, curling around her mind, too soft to make out yet too insistent to ignore. She felt their call, seductive and serene. Let him in, the door shuddered again, squeaking ominously on its hinges. Time twisted, every passing second thickening the tension. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing within. Mom, please, what do we do? The weight of the moment pulled at her. One choice could change everything. With her hands trembling, she turned from the door and faced her family, knowing the truth. Time was running out, and answers were lurking just around the corner, but what if the answers led them all to darkness? Darkness swallowed the room as Sarah turned away from the door. Her heart raced, a relentless drum echoing the thunder outside. Daniel clutched her side, eyes wide, shimmering with tears. Mia was silent, her little body trembling, shrinking into Sarah as though trying to disappear. Hide, Sarah whispered urgently, her voice barely louder than a breath. Get upstairs, now. The kids looked at her, uncertainty lining their faces. They weren't just scared, they were terrified. Sarah felt the weight of their need, the desperate hope that she could keep them safe. But how? Every instinct screamed that safety was an illusion. Another bang shook the door, more forceful this time, like a hand of fate slamming against their resolve. You can't protect them, the man outside said, his voice dripping with malice. Let us play a game, Sarah. I'll give you a choice. Mia whimpered, pressing closer to her mother. Mom, I don't want to play. Don't pay him any mind, honey, Sarah urged, hating the tremor in her own voice. Just close your eyes. Just listen to my voice. Your voice won't be able to keep you safe forever, the dark figure taunted. Suddenly, the light flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The power was wavering. Oh no, no. Sarah muttered as she rushed toward the stairs, her mind racing with options. We need to go. The kids hesitated, eyes flickering between the door and their mother. Mom, what is happening? Daniel stammered. I don't want to go up there. They'll get in. The girl on the floor cried, her words hurried and frenzied. If you stay here enough. Sarah cut her off, choosing to ignore the growing urge to succumb to the fear. She had to be strong. We need to move now. The room was suffocating. The walls seemed to constrict around them, pulsating with a terrifying life of their own. The whispers crept back, clawing at her resolve. Join us, Sarah. Let the darkness in. Shut up. She screamed, clutching her head with both hands, the cacophony growing louder in her mind. The children gasped, eyes widening in shock. Blood roared in her ears, drowning out the pounding at the door, but she forced herself to breathe. Nobody was going to take them. She couldn't let that happen. With one last glance at the door, she grabbed the girl's hand. Come on. We're going upstairs. They scrambled up the creaking staircase, Sarah behind, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Each step felt like leaping into the unknown, the floor groaning under their weight. Suddenly, Daniel's small voice broke the tense silence. "Mom, what if he gets in?" "No." She stopped, heart pounding, looking into her son's innocent eyes filled with dread. "I won't let him." Another crash echoed from below. The door nearly splintered. It felt as if time itself had splintered too, fraying into the chaos. "Up. Now!" she shouted, propelling them forward. As they reached the top, the walls felt like they were closing in, shadows crawling along the edges. "Where do we hide?" Mia squeaked, her hands trembling as she looked around the dimly lit hallway. "Closet." Sarah pointed. "In there. Quickly." They piled inside, darkness wrapping around them like a heavy blanket. Daniel clutched Mia's hand, and Sarah pressed her back against the door. The whispers returned, swirling around her thoughts, filled with promises and threats. "Let him in, Sarah, no." She hissed, pushing back against the tide of despair. "I won't listen." The sound of splintering wood echoed from below. Then silence. Her heart thudded in her chest, an overwhelming fear flooding her senses. She was losing control. "What is going on?" the girl whispered, peeking out from the dark. "What if he finds us?" From the depths of the silence came the faintest sound. Breathing. Unearthly, heavy, steps ascending the stairs. "Don't move," Sarah urged, feeling the icy grip of panic squeezing her heart. They held their breath, shivering in terror, but the door to the closet shuddered under the weight of an unrelenting force. Just then, a small hand clutched Sarah's sleeve. "Mom, what is happening? Would they survive this?" Desperation clawed at her throat, heart racing even faster as she whispered to herself. This isn't over, but was it already too late? The closet felt like a tomb, cold and suffocating. Sarah swallowed hard, every fiber of her being taut with dread. The sound of breathing outside grew deeper, more guttural, as if something unearthly prowled just beyond their flimsy barrier. "Mom," Daniel's whisper trembled, barely audible over the drumming of her heart. The very wall they pressed against thrummed with a sinister pulse, as if the house itself was aware of the danger looming just outside. "Shush," she implored, gripping the door, feeling its threatening vibration. It wasn't just the wind outside anymore, it was the weight of something malevolent, something hungry. Suddenly, the closet door rattled, the hinges protesting against the sheer force. A jolt of adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins. "Stay quiet," she hissed, her voice an urgent plea. The breathing intensified, rhythmic and deliberate, and a low, mocking laugh echoed from the hallway, curling around their hiding place like a noose. "I know you're in there. We'll play soon enough," the man said, the sinister joy in his voice palpable. Her resolve wavered. What if he found them? Her thoughts spiraled endlessly. What would happen if the shadows knew they were here, that she was their mother? Did the darkness have plans she could not fathom? Daniel's sob broke the trance. "Mom, I'm scared." "Me too, sweetheart," she whispered, squeezing Mia's small hand that trembled like a leaf. "But I'm here." Hope flickered briefly, before it was snuffed out. The door shuddered again. This time it was coupled with the sound of something scraping against wood, a slow, deliberate drag. It gnawed at her sanity. "No," Sarah muttered, feeling nauseous. Clutching her children tighter, shadows danced at the corners of her vision. The whispers grew louder, taunting her with the horrors that awaited if the man got in. Desperate, she tried to shut them out, to keep the kids focused on her. "Think of something happy. Remember the park. The swings." Daniel's breath quickened, his face still twisted with fear. "He's gonna get in, I can feel it." "Don't speak like that," she snapped, catching the glint of fear in his eyes. "We're safe. Stay quiet." A sudden crash echoed through the house, the unmistakable splintering of the bedroom door downstairs. Pieces of wood tumbled like confetti, mingling with echoes of sinister laughter. The game was just beginning, Sarah's mind raced. We'll have to move. We can't stay here. The impending threat incited a fierce necessity in her voice. Listen to me. No matter what happens, you have to stay close to me. Before she could say more, the breathing grew louder, close enough that it felt as if it vibrated through her bones. The closet door clicked silently, as if sensing their fear and relishing in it. Sarah's body tensed, preparing for the confrontation. Outside, a voice dripped with mirth. I found you now. The closet door swung open. Sarah let out a scream that shattered the silence, instinctively hurling herself in front of her children, her heart a wild drum in her chest. No escape. Was it all over? A swift rush of movement blurred the outline of the figure in the hallway, making Sarah's pulse race even faster. As the shadow loomed, an unexpected question hit her. What if this wasn't the end? What if this was just the beginning of something far worse? The darkness around them thickened, pulsating, hungry for them. What would she sacrifice to protect her children? A sense of dread filled her. She had to make a choice. But in the gripping heart of terror, could she choose wisely? The door swung wide, revealing nothing but the gloomy hallway, its corners soaked in shadows. The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy stillness and ominous pause, as if both predator and prey were momentarily frozen in time. Run! Sarah shouted, shoving Daniel and Mia towards the back of the closet. She didn't know what had opened the door. Fear had clouded her senses, but she was deeply aware of the urgency of the moment. The air felt electric, charged with something sinister that prickled against her skin. They dove deeper into the cramped space, pushing clothes aside as they pressed into the corner. It smelled like dust and despair, the fabric soft yet unyielding as it enveloped them. Where do we go? Daniel whispered, his voice trembling. Sarah glanced at the door, heart pounding in her throat. We'll find a way out. She squeezed Mia's hand tighter, wishing she could surround her with all the protection in the world. Stay quiet, she whispered fiercely. But another crash erupted from downstairs, a hollow explosion that rattled the walls. Choking screams filled the air, piercing the silence like shards of glass. Every instinct told her to shield her children, to conceal them until the terror passed. The breathing returned, closer now, hot and foul, and heavy footsteps clattered against the floor, each step painting a scene of dread. A low murmur floated to them. Where are you? Come out to play. The voice was distorted, like a taunt drifting in from a nightmare. In a moment of raw desperation, Sarah crawled back towards the closet door, hoping to hear better. As she did, she felt a breath, a cold whisper of wind tugging at her. Mama, Mia whimpered, her small voice breaking the air. Shoo! Sarah hissed again, desperation clawing at her insides. She felt the weight of the moment, their lives hanging by a thread. They had to stick together, yet now, there was no way of knowing. Tension filled the air like smoke. Sarah's heart pounded. It was too quiet, too still. Maybe he had gone. Perhaps it was a trick. But no. The door to the hallway creaked, and that horrible laughter returned. She could feel it echoing through the house, plunging into the depths of her soul. Realization dawned. We have to go out now. She pushed against the door, the wood groaning. Anxiety coursed through her, wrapping around her like chains. With a shaky hand, she eased it open, peering into the darkness. Go, go. She whispered urgently, scanning for danger. Daniel nodded, an innocent resignation in his eyes. It broke her heart. They squeezed through the opening, slipping out like shadows. The house felt different now, alive, pulsing, as if it breathed alongside their fear. Each creak of the floorboards beneath their feet sent new jolts of panic through Sarah. Quick, this way. She urged, guiding them into the narrow hallway that snaked toward the back of the house. Every instinct screamed for them to hide again, to huddle together. But they needed to escape. Suddenly, a thud from behind sent them into a frenzy. He's coming. Daniel cried. Run. She bolted forward, her heart racing. But as they dashed toward the back door, an icy force gripped her ankle, dragging her back with terrifying speed. "No!" she screamed, reaching for her children as the shadows moved around them, wrapping tighter, whispering their malevolence. She could almost grasp the door handle out of reach, like safety itself was taunting her. But then realization struck: what if the shadows were already in control? The choice loomed before her now with dire gravity. Would she fight, or would she let the darkness consume her? Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced through the air, but it didn't come from her. It rose from somewhere below them, sending a chill crawling up her spine. Now the question echoed louder than ever: what dark truth lay hidden within the night, waiting to be unearthed? A guttural roar erupted from the shadows, drowning out the scream. The house shuddered like it had a life of its own, and for a brief moment, Sarah was frozen, instincts pitted against overwhelming fear. The choking darkness tightened around her, a vice gripping her throat. "Mom, please!" Daniel's voice broke through her paralysis, pulling her back into their nightmare. She turned her head just in time to see Mia disappearing into the hallway, drawn by some unseen force. "Mia!" Sarah cried, launching herself forward, but her body felt like lead. The shadows, pulsating with malicious delight, tugged at her, trying to pull her back into their maddening embrace. With a surge of sheer will, she yanked free from the icy grip, sprinting after her daughter. The hallway expanded and contracted, a living thing reshaping itself, walls pulsating in sync with her racing heart. "Mia! Hold on!" she shouted. The little girl stood at the end of the corridor, bathed in a sickly glow from a single light bulb flickering overhead. Tears streamed down her dirt-smudged face, and her wide eyes reflected pure terror. "I can't see the way out." Her voice trembled, small against the encroaching gloom. Sarah forced herself to run faster despite the heaviness that pressed down on her. The laughter echoed again, close, mocking. It was as if the house was alive, whispering secrets that threatened to tear them apart. "Mommy!" Daniel wailed, his small figure swaying back and forth, caught between the thrill of fear and the desire to retreat. "Stay together!" Sarah barked, grabbing Mia's hand. She felt the cold sweat on her daughter's fingers and held on tighter. They couldn't let the darkness separate them. Behind her, the shadows danced, slithering closer. The rattling laughter intensified, a haunting melody that sought to pull them into a downward spiral of despair. The light flickered violently, casting eerie shadows that warped their surroundings. Desperation clawed at Sarah. She scanned the dim corridor, searching for an exit, anything that could shield them from the threat shrouded in darkness. "Mama, I'm scared," Mia whimpered. "Me too," Sarah admitted, her voice shaky. But she couldn't let them see her fear. "Just keep moving." They stumbled forward, every step like moving through thick mud, sweat pouring down Sarah's back, heart thundering like a war drum. As they reached what felt like the end of the hallway, Sarah's breath caught. In front of them stood a door, the back door. Hope flared within her. "Look, there!" she yelled, relief bolting through her. But as they approached, the door slammed shut with a resounding crash, rattling on its hinges. It shouldn't be locked, it never was. She had always left it ajar, a way to feel safe in a world that could crumble at any moment. "No!" Sarah screamed, pounding her fists against it. "Let us out! Open it!" Daniel cried, his voice rising in panic. The laughter rolled around them again, drenched in disdain. It wasn't just a noise. It felt like it had substance, wrapping around her as tightly as the shadows. And then came a low, menacing whisper that curled around them, sweet and vile. "You can't leave, not yet." Mia clutched her mother's leg, her grip as frail as a whisper of wind. "Run back!" Sarah screamed, spinning on her heels, steeling herself against the shadows that crowded around them. A quaking dread hung in the air as she realized what they were up against. These weren't just shadows, they were hunters. Suddenly, an ominous crash reverberated again, but this time it wasn't from the door. It came from above. The ceiling sagged, a dark mass shifting ominously. Sarah's heart lurched. What was waiting for them up there? Go, go! She shouted, dragging her kids along as a horrifying realization struck her. If the house had become their jailer, what awaited them on the other side? They raced beneath the archway to another room, the darkness chasing them, refusing to release its grip. We have to find a way out. But a chilling howl echoed, wrapping around them like icy fingers. The air became thick, suffocating with dread. The house was alive and it was hungry. As Sarah turned to survey their surroundings, her eyes locked on a figure emerging from the shadows, a twisted silhouette, barely human, wide-eyed and grinning with a malicious delight. Playtime just began, it hissed, steps echoing slowly toward them. The question trembled in Sarah's mind, twisting with her panic. What sinister game had they been drawn into? Mia's terrified gasp sent a cold wave of dread crashing over Sarah. The figure loomed closer, its silhouette wobbling in the flickering light, taking on a form both grotesque and familiar. It was as if the house fed on their fears, shaping that horror into something flesh and bone. Stay close. Sarah growled, pulling her children even tighter. She could feel the tremors in Mia's small frame as the reality of their situation closed in around them. They were trapped, and the only path led deeper into the mouth of the beast. Run! Sarah yelled, turning on her heel again. The figure shrieked, a sound that echoed in her ears like nails scraping down a chalkboard. The laughter grew louder, closer, chills racing up her spine. They fled into a room that twisted and buckled like a warped dream. It was cluttered with furniture, dust motes swirling in the air, illuminated by the sickly glow of the single bulb overhead. The shadows danced and writhed, and Sarah glanced back, heart racing as they approached the dark depths of the space. The figure in the hallway paused, cocking its head and narrowing its eyes, the grin plastered on its face almost mocking. Where do you think you're going? It taunted, voice dripping with bizarre glee. Keep going. Sarah urged, bolting toward a window instinctively. But as she approached, she noticed it was bricked up, the once welcoming light of the outside world now reduced to a cruel illusion. Despair clawed at her heart as they stumbled back into the center of the room, scanning the surroundings for another exit. The walls felt like they were closing in, creeping closer as every second passed. Mia could hardly breathe, clutching at her mother in sheer terror. Mommy, I want to go home. She cried, the last word wrapping around Sarah's heart like a vice grip. Home? How long had it been since the idea felt safe? Daniel tugged at her sleeve, his eyes wide as he pointed toward an old armoire, its doors slightly ajar. What about there? He whispered, voice trembling, nodding grimly. Sarah nodded and glanced back at the figure. The grin wavered for just a moment, as if flickering like the dying light bulb above them. You can't hide, I'll find you, it purred, teeth glinting in the dim light, each syllable dripped in malice. Quick! Sarah urged, and they sprinted toward the armoire. She flung the door open. Inside, it was dark, swallowed by the shadows. But they had no choice. Gritting her teeth, she stepped inside, pulling her children in right after her. The stifling darkness enveloped them, heartbeats pounding in unison as they squeezed together. They could still hear the laughter, ringing eerily in the air. It burrowed into her brain, sowing seeds of terror. They huddled in the narrow space, breaths shallow and quick. It felt like the shadows themselves were pressing against the armoire, listening, waiting. Are we safe? Daniel squeaked, fear evident in his voice, the question hanging in the air like a cruel joke. I don't know, Sarah whispered back, eyes wide in the darkness, no light to pierce through the crushing weight of despair. Panic skittered through her, dragging her thoughts further into a spiral of horror. Suddenly, the air shifted, the presence outside lingering closer. A soft whisper slid through the crack of the armoire door. Come out and play, it's so much more fun when you run. A chill crept down Sarah's spine. What game had they been drawn into, and how could they ever hope to escape its sinister clutches? The dim light outside the armoire illuminated the edge of the door slightly, revealing something crawling beneath, seeking them. Stay quiet, Sarah said, the command faltering as hope drained away. How long could they remain hidden? Outside loomed the hushed, cheering crowd of shadows, eager for a new game, a game with very high stakes. Then a crack, the armoire creaked ominously, as fingers, long and shadowy, began to pry the door open. Mia squeaked, tears glistening like silver in the dark. What would emerge from that darkness? What had they trapped themselves within? In those harrowing moments, Sarah felt her heart racing, every beat reverberating like a battle cry against the oppressive silence. The gentle prying at the armoire door sent shivers racing up her spine, but there was no retreat now. She had to protect her children, no matter the cost. What do we do? Daniel whispered, voice barely a breath. Just hold on, Sarah replied, forcing herself to maintain a calm facade. We can't let him find us. Just, stay quiet. As the shadowy fingers continued their relentless quest to expose them, Sarah held Mia and Daniel tighter, feeling their tiny bodies tremble against hers. The air thickened, despair pulsed like a living thing. But with each scrape of shadow against wood, a flicker of determination surged within her. This wasn't just about survival now. This was a fight for their lives, their love, everything she held dear. The door creaked wider, and with it spilled a cold, unnatural wind that sent a shiver coursing through all three of them. Just on the other side, she could sense the figure, the dark entity that had haunted their night, lurking eagerly, drawn by their fear. Stop! Sarah shouted suddenly, her voice raw and fierce. You can't have us. We're not afraid of you. To her surprise, the figure hesitated. The laughter stopped, and an unnerving silence blanketed the air, like the calm before an impending storm. It was a chance, an opening. Please, just come at us, thinker of darkness. Sarah declared boldly, channeling every ounce of fierceness inside her. You want to play? Let us play then. There was a beat of confusion, yet illumination sparked in her heart. Somehow, she could feel the shadows pulling back, questioning her audacity, the chains of fear loosening. Mom! What if it's a trick? Daniel asked, voice trembling yet hopeful. Trust me, Danny, she breathed, squeezing his hand. This is our moment. Before she could second guess, she swung the armoire door open wide. The split light illuminated the darkness and revealed the figure, caught off guard, its delight morphed into fury, eyes seething with rage. No! It roared, a sound that echoed violently, quaking through the house. You think defiance will save you? No, Sarah said, stepping from the armoire with her children firmly by her side, but love will. We will not let you consume us. In that instant, Sarah felt the walls shudder around her. The shadows writhed angrily. The man's face twisted, his once menacing presence faltering under the surge of her words, which now filled the room with warmth and light. The darkness recoiled, as if burned by the conviction in her heart. Together, she said firmly, squeezing Mia and Daniel's hands tighter. We fight together. With those words, her voice rallied both children, and they stepped forward as one, anchoring each other. The power surged through Sarah, memories of laughter, joy, and unconditional love enveloped them, chasing away the cold that had gripped their hearts. The dark shadow screeched, torn between dread and anger, trying to recapture its hold. You can't fight me. It hissed, retreating momentarily. But the trio pressed further. Light and love will always drive away your darkness. Sarah shouted, her voice ringing with determination. We're stronger than you. As they moved in unison, a warm glow emanated from them, radiating hope that melted the shadows. As their inner light spread, it cut through the putrid darkness enveloping the house, fracturing the entity's presence like glass. No. You'll regret this. The man howled, morphing into dark vapor, screaming as the light engulfed him. With each step they took, the oppressive weight began to fade, shadows melted away, vacating the hall, and Sarah felt the warmth of her home returning. The fear that had once gripped tight melted into tears of relief. When they reached the front door, Sarah flung it open, welcoming the rain-soaked world, still alive with howling winds but now tinged with sweetness. The storm had simmered, revealing a sky dotted with stars, sparkling against a backdrop of pure black. They stepped outside, dripping but liberated. Daniel and Mia clung to her side, faces bright with raw emotions. Fear had slipped away, replaced now by triumph. "I'm proud of you both," Sarah whispered, ruffling their hair. As they embraced under the constellation-studded sky, the memories of terror drifted away like the storm clouds above. They had faced the darkness together and emerged out of it, forever bound by the strength of their love. "Let us head back home," Sarah said softly. "This time it'll be safe." As they made their way back, the night air felt still, promising. The past would always be part of them, but now they could move forward, hand in hand, towards whatever the dawn would bring. Remember, every shadow holds a story. If you've enjoyed this journey, you need to subscribe now for more spine-tingling tales that await you. Smash that like button now so you can support our channel. And don't hold back, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Did they really escape? What do you think happened next? Your reactions matter, and we want to hear from you. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to stand with us. You're part of this experience.